Welcome to our continuing series, Questions and Answers, from the works of Sri Aurobindo and the Mother. Today, Food, Part 5. From the Mother. I thought I had said more than that, because inwardly I said a great deal about the organization of food, and so on. We are going to try things out. Some things are really interesting. For instance, I'd like there to be, to begin with, every country will have its pavilion, and in the pavilion there will be the cuisine of that country, which means that the Japanese will be able to eat Japanese food if they want to, etc. But in the township itself, there will be food for vegetarians, food for non-vegetarians, and also a sort of experiment to find tomorrow's food. You see, all this work of assimilation, which makes you so heavy, it takes up so much time and energy from the being, should be done before. You should be able to immediately assimilate what you are given, as with things they make now. For instance, they have those vitamins that can be directly assimilated, and also, what do they call it? Mother tries to remember. I take them every day. Words and I aren't on very good terms. Proteins. Nutritive principles that are found in one thing or another and aren't bulky. You need to take a tremendous quantity of food to assimilate very little. So now that they are fairly clever with chemicals, that could be simplified. People don't like it, simply because they take an intense pleasure in eating. But when you no longer take pleasure in eating, you need to be nourished, and not to waste your time with that. The amount of time lost is enormous. Time for eating, time for digesting, and the rest. So I would like to have an experimental kitchen there, a sort of culinary laboratory to try out. And according to these tastes and tendencies, people would go here or there. And you don't pay for your food, but you must give your work or the ingredients. For example, those who had fields would give the produce of their fields. Those who had factories would give their products, or else your own work in exchange for food. For example, those who produce food. A factory such as Aurofood. Naturally, when we will be 50,000, it will be difficult to meet the needs. But for the moment, we'll only be a few thousand at the most. Well, a factory always produces far too much, so it will sell outside and receive money. And Aurofood, for instance, wants to have a special relationship with workers, not at all the old system. Something that would be an improvement on the communist system, a more balanced organization than Sovietism or communism. That is, which doesn't lean too much either toward one side or the other. The idea of Aurofood is good, and they are trying to make propaganda among industrialists. That's what we've said. The industries will participate actively, they will contribute. If they are industries producing articles that aren't in constant need and are therefore in quantities or numbers too great for the township's own use that will be sold outside, those industries must naturally participate through money. And I take the example of food. Those who produce food will give the township what it needs, in proportion to what they produce, naturally. And it is the township's responsibility to feed everyone. That means people won't have to buy their food with money, but they will have to earn it. To eat through greediness and a passion for food is something completely different from studying the different tastes and knowing how to compare them, combine them, and appreciate them. Question: how does fasting produce a state of receptivity? Mother: it is because usually the vital being is very closely concentrated on the body. And when the body is well fed, it takes its strength from the food, its energy from the food. And it is one way. It is obviously almost the only way, not the only one, but the most important in the present conditions of life. But it is a very tamasic way of absorbing energy.